Welcome to the July 20th, 2023 Networking for Introverts group call. I'm Sabrina Schottenhamel. Thank you all for being here in this hot summertime. We were just talking before we jumped on to the recording. Angela's in Arizona and she said the high is 117 today. And Leslie is in Virginia. And what's the temperature there?
I think it's in the 80s right now, but it's
80s
been
and humid.
Yeah, it's been heat index of 110.
Wow. Yes. So we are hot. So everyone's inside in the air conditioning, and we're coming together to support each other as amazing introverted leaders. So I want to go around really quick. We'll just maybe take 30 seconds, say your name, where you're from, and one little fun fact about yourself. So we'll start with Angela. Unless you can't unmute right now.
I can, sorry.
Okay.
Well, I am Angela and I am native to Chicago, although I did move out here to Phoenix a couple years ago. And I always get stumped with the fun facts. So my go-to is I used to know, like, it's commonly known that like you're not supposed to be able to like lick your elbow. Well, I totally can. I'm not going to show, but I promise you I can. So fun fact about me anyway.
Okay, love it. All right, hang on one second for some reason. I don't know why I have a notification. Okay, next we'll go to Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm from Virginia, actually, Leslie's sister. So that's a fun little fact that I'm Leslie's sister. And this is Axel.
Hi, Axel. Thanks for being here, both of you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
And Richard, you can go next.
My name is Richard, call me Rich, and I reside in the Chicagoland area in Bolingbrook, not too far from Sabrina. And one fun fact about me is I like trains. I like model railroading, watching trains. Yeah. So some people call us foamers.
What is it? Foamers?
Foamers, yeah, because every time a train comes by, we get excited. Well, yeah, we get excited. So the railroad workers call us foamers.
Okay, I love it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Dwayne, you're next. You're on mute.
I'm not used to Zoom, so I'm like, where is that mute button? I hit it a minute ago, but my screen shifted on me. So yeah, hi, Dwayne Long. I live in Louisville, Texas. So yeah, we've been dealing with the heat, and I'm going to San Antonio this weekend, which is kind of the wrong direction, but anyway, it'll be fun. We're gonna be indoors, so most of the time.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, fun fact. I don't know. Well, I used to. A long time ago, I had a lot of hair and I sang in a band. I was a lead singer. So
those are fun facts. I like it. Thanks. All right, Jim, I will let you go and then we'll go to Leslie. Well, I'll introduce Leslie after that.
Hi, my name is Jim Itznight. I finally made another meeting. I keep promising I'll come. An interesting fact is I met Sabrina and I started my own networking for introvert group in the Schaumburg Business Association. She inspired me. We've been going strong now for 9 months. And so by that, we've had some very great speakers, and we have about 18 people. And like I said, we're going strong. And like I'm a reformed introvert, I'm sharing a big event with 400 people now on August 2nd for the Childhood Leukemia Warrior Foundation. And so I consider myself like Sabrina. I'm a reformed introvert, but I have to work at it all the time to make sure my tendencies doesn't come back when I'm out there networking. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim. And I'm so glad that I was able to inspire you and be one of your speakers and that your group is going strong. That's amazing. All right. So I am your fearless leader. A few of you may not know me very well, but I'm Sabrina Schottenhamel. I live in the western suburbs of Chicago. I'm an introverted leader. I'm a speaker, massage therapist. I speak on all things self-care. And an interesting fact about me is I've been dancing since I was 2.5. I started ballet at 2.5 years old. I danced till I was about 17 or 18. And then I took a little bit of a break from that. And then I started doing pole dancing for fitness, starting taking classes and then teaching classes, because I love dance, because I love to keep myself fit. And the sad part about that is I haven't been taking pole dancing for about 2.5 years now, and I miss it dearly. So I want to get back into it, but scheduling conflicts don't allow me to do that right now. So thank you all for introducing yourselves, and let me introduce Leslie, and then I'll let her take it away. So I've known Leslie through our business coach for probably 3 or 4 years now, I think. We've been in the same coaching group, and I have always loved Leslie, she's an introvert. She's soft-spoken and quiet, but her spirit I can feel through the camera every time. I just feel like there's this big spirit behind that little voice. And so for about a year, we've tried to connect over Zoom or phone call, and things just kept coming up. But God's timing is always the perfect timing, because we connected a few months ago, and it was right around the time when this topic kept coming up for me. And I said, oh, I need to connect with Leslie. We had a phone call. I asked her to speak, and here we are today. So Leslie, take it away.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. Hi, guys. Like she said, I'm Leslie. I live in Virginia near my sister. I am very much an introvert. A fun fact about me is when I was in the 2nd grade, a long time ago, I used to go out and put the flag up in front of the schoolyard, and then in the afternoons go back and take it down and fold it up. And I don't even know if they do that anymore in schools. I don't know if it's even safe for kids to go out by themselves, but it was just a really cool experience that meant a lot to me, and something that I will cherish forever. So today we're going to be talking about identity and imposter syndrome and how it relates to us as introverts, because we tend to be more shy and timid and quiet. But last night I was sitting down to eat dinner, and my fiance picked up an episode of Candid Camera on YouTube. And in case you're not familiar with the show, I'm sure everybody is, but it's a series that was designed to capture reactions and responses of ordinary people being confronted with unusual or challenging situations. And as we were watching, I started thinking about it. So I got on Google and I looked, and it had been a successful show that ran on air for more than 50 years. And obviously, it's still being broadcast on different platforms like YouTube and Amazon Prime, things like that. Well, when he picked it, it happened to be the first episode of the first season, and Arthur Godfrey and Alan Funt were the two that kind of coordinated the series, and they were talking about why they created it. And Arthur had mentioned that it's a unique perspective because it allows you to see yourself from other people's lens instead of looking at yourself the way you see yourself. And he went on to say, when you see the camera light on, you tend to freeze up, like, oh my goodness, the spotlight's on me. What do I do? Do I look okay? Is my hair okay? Am I sitting okay? And, you get distracted by what you're actually supposed to be doing. But when the camera is hidden, you're more natural. Things are organic. Things tend to happen freely because you don't know you're being recorded. So I got to thinking, why was this show so successful? Well, if you go to Google, it'll say it was comedic relief, it was entertainment, it was reality TV. It began back in the 40s. The first episode aired in 1959, but they had actually begun in the 40s. And I didn't realize that they even had this kind of technology back then. So as I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, it aired for more than 50 years. Why? It had to have been more than just comedic relief. And I got to thinking, what if it was because it gave the secret to what people are really looking for? People are shown in their real, raw, vulnerable selves. It reveals character about people. It just shows people in their true form, how they really are. And so, of course, I was thinking about today and, labels and imposter syndrome. And I was like, oh, this all kind of ties together. So who here hasn't heard of imposter syndrome before? Show of hands. You know what it is? Everybody does? Okay. So when you Google imposter syndrome, you can find a ton of information, but basically it boils down to feelings of inadequacy. And the Oxford Language Dictionary defined it as the persistent inability to believe one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of your own efforts and skills. In other words, if you actually do have success, you just chalk it up to luck. You don't actually attribute it to something you're good at, your skills, your qualifications, your experience. So when we feel inadequate, we focus on our shortcomings, our weaknesses, and we lose sight of who we really are. But where does this come from? What drives those feelings of doubt and insecurity? So let me ask you this. Who are you? When you hear that, what do you think of? What is your identity? How would you describe yourself in one word or a quick phrase? Do you immediately think of things and go, oh yeah, I can ramble off a whole bunch of, words and phrases? Or are you stuck? Are you paralyzed? Are you frozen? Like, oh my goodness, I have no idea. And in just a minute, I would like for everyone, if it's okay with Sabrina, to just share really quick something that pops into your head, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. There are no wrong answers here. It's a safe environment. But I'm just curious, what comes to your mind when you think of identity? So, Angela, can I call on you first? What pops into your head?
Well, first and foremost, my identity as a daughter of God, that's like what's most important to me, and that affects every single area of my life. And so I wouldn't be the wife I am, the mother I am, the business partner I am, if not for that identity. So that's what pops up to me first.
Awesome. And what about you, Rich?
There we go. Well, for me, it's culture.
Okay. All right. And Dwayne?
Good person and problem solver.
All right. Michelle?
You. Well, right now, I think the main thing that I can identify as is a new mom. That's really all I know at this point.
All right. And Jim, last but not least.
Well, when you first said, the first thing that popped to my mind, I'm a grandfather of two.
All right. And then we might as well include you, Sabrina. Go ahead.
Yeah, I always think of like my business role. So massage therapist, speaker. Yeah.
Okay. So all of these are really good answers. But when I think of what they all mean, they're labels. A mom, a wife, a business professional, a grandfather, a sister, an introvert. They're all just labels. And when you look at what labeling is, it's something that attaches itself to an object. It gives information. So synonymous words are description, tag, classification, identification. But what about things like, I'm unqualified, I'm not enough, I'm too shy to speak in front of people, I'm an introvert, so I can't be a leader? What about things like that? If you take the labels that we have identified ourselves with, whether it's something that we've placed on ourselves or something that we have chosen to grab onto from what other people say about us, they're just labels. And we can actually exchange those labels with our true identity. So what is our true identity? And Angela, you hit it right on the head. Identity, if you look it up, it says it's the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. Google also classifies it as personality, achievements, gender, ethnicity, nationality, your social class, your values. But what does God say about identity and who you are? In Genesis, it states that human beings, which includes all of us, we were created in the image of God, male and female. He created us. In Jeremiah, it states, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I sanctified you. In Psalms 139, it says, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. That includes you, Rich, and you, Jim. That includes all of us. In Ephesians, it declares that God decided in advance to adopt us into his family by bringing us to himself through Christ. And not only did he do this, but it gave him great pleasure to do this. In 2 Corinthians, it says that we are the righteousness of God, that we have right standing with him in Jesus. In Ephesians, it declares that we're no longer foreigners or strangers, but we're fellow citizens with God's people. We're members of his household. 1 John says that we are children of God. John 15 says we are friends of God, and he no longer calls us slaves. In 1 Corinthians, it says we are co-workers or co-laborers with God, meaning we are in partnership with him. And God doesn't compartmentalize, and I'm sure Sabrina has heard this many times. We hear it a lot from our business coach. God doesn't compartmentalize. He's not just God in our personal life, but he's God in our business. He's God in our relationships, in our finances. And he wants to do life with us and for us and through us. In Matthew, it says that we are the light of the world and a town built on a hill that cannot be hidden. In 1 Corinthians, it says that we are a new creation in Christ. 2 Corinthians says that we are bold. Colossians says that we are chosen. It says that we are enough through Christ. And in Galatians, it says we are free. And one of my favorites is 1 Peter 4:10. It says that we are gifted, that we each have unique gifts given to us by our Heavenly Father. Romans states that we are heirs of God. It declares that we are loved, and nothing that we do can separate us from the love of God. There's no sin great, there's no failure too big, there's no fault too whatever. God still loves us. There's nothing that we can do that will drive God away from us. He created us to love and to be loved. So what does all this mean? It means that we can exchange the labels that have been placed on us by ourselves, by someone else. It means that we can stand tall knowing that when we walk with God, when we ask him what he wants of us, when we're obedient to what he's asking, when we remember that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, we can focus on what he's capable of. We can shift our mindset from what we can do, what our abilities are, our skills, our strengths, what our weaknesses are, and we can position it back onto him. Because when I think about what I can do, I was preparing for this and I was like, who am I to be speaking in front of these people? Like, I'm not qualified. And I looked at my fiance and I was like, what if I bomb this? And he said, so what if you do? And I was like, oh, okay. And he said, that's not who you are. He said, that doesn't define you. And I was like, oh yeah, duh, you're right. And it just was so encouraging because I can shift my thinking to what I'm capable of or what I'm not good at, and I can focus it on God, the creator of the universe. I can take it off of me, and what do I look like, and how are people going to think about me, and what are they going to say, and all these things, and I can place it on God because he created me and he created you. And it's about being reminded that he is in control of all things. He is the source and we are just the resource. When we place our identity in God and rest in him as the children of God that we are, we can operate from a place of peace and rest. How? Because we don't have to worry about anything. We just show up. We show up with a willing heart. We show up with openness, ready, willing, and obedient to do what he has asked us to do. And even if it sounds insanely crazy, like Sabrina asking me to speak, I was so excited, but so nervous. But it wasn't about me. It was about what God wanted to do through me for you guys today and whoever might be listening in on the recording. So you don't have to sit on the hamster wheel and have your brain spin around like, oh, what can I do better? You know, maybe you're in a dark season, or maybe you don't have a dark season. Maybe you have opportunities presenting themselves, but you've been too afraid because you're introverted. You're too afraid because you don't think you're good enough, because you're not outspoken, or you don't have as much experience as the next person. But that's not who God says we are. When we understand that he goes before us, we can walk in confidence that he is enough. When we fall short, he is the source of our strength, of our hope, of our confidence, of our trust, of our faith. And when you know who you are, everything changes. You walk different, you talk different, you act differently. And you might think, oh, well, I can't do this, or, you know, I'm going to claim defeat. I'm just going to sit on the sidelines. No, that's not what he wants. You were birthed for a purpose. You were destined for greatness, and you are meant to stand out. God created each of us to love and be loved. So today, you might not think like, oh, who am I? But hopefully after you walk away from this, you'll remember, oh, I'm a child of God. I'm redeemed. I'm called. I'm loved. I'm forgiven. I'm gifted. And all you have to do is simply have a willing and open heart and ask God, what do you want to do through me? How do you want to speak to these people today, or whoever you're called to serve in whatever capacity? It might be speaking for you, Sabrina. Michelle, it might be with Axel. It might be with your grandchildren. You know, you never know how God wants to use you. But I just encourage you today to exchange those labels of I'm not good enough, or I'm too loud, I'm too much for some, or not enough for others. And just remember that you are a child of God that is loved, and you were created to love and be loved. So what labels will you choose to wear?
Wow. Huh. Whew. Okay. Wow, I took a lot of notes, and I loved all the verses that you spit out. And thankfully we are recording this, so we can go back and go through them and write them down, exchange those labels, because that's who we think we are. Like when you ask that question, we always think like, you know, our role. Like I said, I'm a massage therapist, a speaker, I'm a wife, you know, like those are the first things that come to our mind. But really, like what truly are we? What purpose do we serve here on earth? And so, yeah, it goes way deeper than just like who we are on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Wow. I want to go around and just get a little bit of feedback, or maybe there's questions that have come up. So I'm going to open up the floor to all of you to either have a question for Leslie, to share some feedback, something that you're going to walk away with and start implementing today. So take it away. Angela, I see you want to say something.
You always know when I'm like slowly going toward the thing. Well, Leslie, I just want to say too, I so identify with this. Like I so identify with being asked to do something, and then also feeling like, well, I'm so appreciative and honored for the opportunity. I'm also like, who the heck am I? Like, that would be able to speak into this. But I so believe, and before you even said any of that, you had such authority in the way that you were speaking. And I'm like running through, like, I need to connect Leslie with these people because I feel like you could speak into all these spaces. But in particular, the thing that I so love is the exchange process. Like, it's not enough just to say, well, I'm not a failure. It's not enough to say I'm not intimidated. You have to, exchange it for the correct label, which is, no, I'm brave. I'm victorious. I'm a conqueror. I'm a champion. And I think sometimes that other piece, we don't like fulfill it. We don't, grab what is really true. So I love that you gave us a list that we can literally like put on our bulletin boards and put on sticky notes around us. Just be like, when you're intimidated to send that text or you don't feel equipped, you're like, actually, it's not by my strength. So
Exactly.
I loved it. So thanks, friend.
Thank you.
Who else wants to say something? Michelle, would you like to go?
Sure. So of course, me being sister of Leslie, we've talked about this meeting, of course, multiple times, and she's asked my opinion and everything, and gave her not necessarily opinion, but just gave her some ideas to throw at her. But as she's sitting here talking, I'm sitting here thinking, like, the exchange, exactly what was just said, the exchange of what we think in our mind of who we are, those labels, those titles. It's something that we're going to have to actively do every single day. It's just like forgiveness. You can say that you forgive somebody for, doing something wrong. And then the next day you feel that hurt again. And then you go back the day after and you're like, oh, I feel okay now that, I still forgive them. It's great. And then the day after that, you're back to, all right, now I feel that little bit of bitterness, that anger, all of it's coming back. But it's something that you constantly have to do. You have to choose to daily to forgive and choose daily to not label yourself with what you have in your mind or how you view yourself. And you have to daily look at it as, okay, yes, I am a child of God. Yes, hi. It's just, there has to be an active choice that we do, and make a habit out of it to not constantly down ourselves or constantly identify as something that we are not. Great job,
Yeah.
Leslie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all can like tag team.
Yeah. Sister tag team. Love it. Richard, would you like to say something?
Well, like I said, for one, I like the verses. It's a good daily reminder, and we're all children of God, and like and I said, we try to strive to perfection, but none of us are perfect, and that's why we have God. He forgives us because He knows we're going to make mistakes because we're human. So, and that's the beauty of it. He forgives us, even though there may be consequences. Sometimes there may be consequences, but in the end, He does it out of love.
Right.
So that was great. That was great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Dwayne.
Yeah, this actually hits home on something I've been dealing with, probably focusing way too much and worrying. So obviously I'm not doing a great job at this, but so off and on throughout my career, somebody somewhere along the way will say, Dwayne, you're too quiet. You need to speak up more in meetings and all these things. And I'm sure some of y'all have been through that. And I think in some ways, at least in their mind, that's limiting my progression. And maybe it is in certain, in their dreams for me or whatever. And it's always bothered me, I think, even though I act like it doesn't, but it does. And so the last year when this vice president that told me, and I really respect the guy. And I had a lot more respect back then. But anyway, that's another story. But just the fact that he brought it up again, and I thought, you know what? I've been told this for years. So I did some self-analysis pretty much. And through that whole process, I had to kind of change my mindset and think about, who am I? Now, I didn't necessarily start with I'm a child of God, but it's boiled back to that, to where I'm like, okay, why am I on here? Why did God put me here on earth? So I guess I did have God in there, but why am I here? And then I thought, okay, well, so I started from that, and then I'm here to serve people, helping them solve problems, because I like to solve problems. I think all the time. I can't help myself. And so anyway, this kind of brought back that thought process of how I got to that. It's still a work in progress. I think I've made some career choices that probably have led me away from what I really love and how I best serve others. So I'm going through the process right now, seeing, okay, do I want to keep doing this, or do I want to go back to what I enjoy? And if I do that, I know I'll quite possibly take a huge pay cut. But internally for me, is it worth that, to be able to serve others to my best capacity? I'm doing okay doing what I do now, but it doesn't fulfill me. And I know I have so much more to offer. And yes, I'm going to be quiet, and I just need to be a little more, I guess, instead of just taking that, because that's basically what I did when he first mentioned it. I actually went back to him later and I said, well, yeah, that's kind of what makes me tick. I'm quiet because I'm focusing on listening to the issues instead of just talking to be talking. And my company is very extroverted, almost everybody. There's a few of us people like me, but we're in the beauty industry, right? So, yeah, I kind of stand out like a sore thumb, I guess. But that's who I am, and that's how I learn, and that's how I solve a lot of problems, because I listen to people as they bring them out. And
Yes.
anyway, I'm talking too much, but that's kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a superpower, but that's who God made me to be, and that's what I'm doing. So
I
I
love
need
it.
to get back to doing that more often. So thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry for rambling.
Thank you. Awesome. Yes. So trying to think, there was something that came up for me. I can't remember what it was now. Is there anything else that you had for us, Leslie?
Can I share a little story really quick?
Sure.
Okay, so when I was preparing for this and I was talking to Jesse, my fiance, and we were talking about imposter syndrome, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I don't really know what that is. And he was like, I don't think I've ever heard it before. And he said, what is it? And I was like, well, it's, when you feel inadequate. And he said, well, that's not at all what I thought it was. And I said, well, what did you think it was? And he said, well, what is an imposter? And he said, an imposter is somebody who pretends to be something that they're not. And he threw out the example, like someone pretending to be a football player, even though they're not a football player, for the sake of what others might think of them. And it got me thinking, and I was like, what if we shift our thinking and our mindset around imposter syndrome? And what if when we have those labels that come in, like those feelings of inadequacy, those thoughts of I'm not good enough, or I'm too quiet, too shy, whatever. And what if we called those things out as the imposter that they are? Because an imposter is someone who intentionally tries to deceive you or mislead you. So when you have these labels coming at you, whether you've taken them on yourself or, from other people, what if you just stop and say, wait a minute, that's the imposter. That's the thing that's trying to mislead me away from what I'm really called to do. And look at imposter syndrome as that, instead of, oh, I'm not good enough. So I don't know. It just, when he was talking to me about it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And he said, what? I was like, no, really, it's such a shift in how you look at something. And we know that everything boils down to mindset, right? So it's, instead of focusing on what we don't have, it's focusing what we do have. And at the end of the day, that is God and, who he called us to be. So.
Well, when you were talking just now, it seems like the word imposter is like, the enemy trying to come in and say, this is what you are. And then we're like, yeah, we're totally that, because we take that on and then we hold on to it for way too long. And then we realize, what are we doing? What are we doing here on earth? And I think recently I've been having some of those things come up for myself where I'm like, why am I good? Why do I want to speak? And how am I good enough to speak into people? Like, why are they going to believe me? Well, so I definitely need to identify those as an enemy and have God take over those and exchange them for what I'm really worth.
And if you want, Sabrina, I made a list of all the verses and like what the exchange is. So I can send it to you to send it out to whoever would like it. That way, if Angela, if you want to put it up on your board, you can look at it and go, yep, that's great.
Yeah, super. Yeah. And actually, if you want to put that in our messenger chat, you can just share it there.
In the Zoom?
No, in the Facebook one, I think
yeah.
I have you on there. Yeah.
I'll do that when the
call's over.
I'll add
Yeah,
it.
perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to say one thing because it's so interesting. I like, even as you were speaking before, I automatically interpreted those as the labels as being lies, even though there can be some labels that are positive, but maybe restricting. But I think when we're most likely to feel inadequate and that like imposter syndrome is probably because we're actually stretching. And that's actually something really good to feel as long as you can combat it with something, as long as you can identify what those things are. Because I mean, that's the thing about lies, is that they come in kind of sneaky and they attach on, and then you don't maybe even know that you're dealing with it until even somebody tells you or something like that. But I think that it's really powerful to be in that place of stretching, because you're probably walking further into your purpose and your call, and that maybe there are things out there that don't want you to reach that, and so the attack feels much stronger. But this is so good, such an insightful, thought-provoking conversation for sure.
Hey, I have a question. So anyway, I signed up on this through LinkedIn. I think I did. I don't know. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
But you said you have a Facebook group. So is it okay if I join, and how do I join? I don't know the name of it.
Oh, well, I don't have a Facebook group. I just created a Facebook Messenger chat. And so if you want to connect with me on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
And then I can add you to the chat.
And then I can see it there. Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Is there any other final thoughts before we close out? No. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Leslie. This has been, like Angela just said, so insightful, so thought-provoking, and we have a lot of work to do. I mean, not us personally. We have a lot of praying to do, or, just sitting quietly and thinking of what God has intended for our lives from here on out. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, go out and enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we will see you next month, the third Thursday of August, which is the 17th of August. Same time, same place.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.